There's an old wives' tale. Used to hear it when you were a kid. I know you've heard it too. It goes something like this. You put a frog in a pot of normal water and gradually you heat it up to boiling, and the frog's just going to sit there until it boils because it can't detect that the water is getting hotter. It's not true, but please don't take the experiment and do that at home just in case I'm wrong. I don't need a dead frog on my conscience. Look, whether or not it's true of the frog, it can most definitely be true of economics. It came out the other day that a scarcity of potatoes has led to a shortage of French fries and chips all over the world. Now, if that doesn't already hit home with you, your arteries are probably clearer than mine. We, meaning the United States, are one of the world's top producers of potatoes, but the lockdown nonsense last year led directly to the forced destruction of hundreds of tons of the crop. Now, I want to pause and let you think about that for a moment. This is meaningful to me. Hundreds of tons of potatoes. Now, maybe not the best food for you to be eating, and I don't want to piss off the potato farmers out there, especially when, listen, it's food. It's good food. I love a potato. There's nothing wrong with a potato. There aren't as many starving people in the world today as there used to be, but there are starving people. Yet here in the good old U.S. of A., because of the hapless actions of a few bureaucratic jackasses in positions of power, we're just throwing massive quantities of food in a giant hole in the ground to rot. Now, I want you to realize it. Visualize this. Your car is probably a couple of tons, so imagine a pile of potatoes the size of your car. Now imagine a giant car lot with hundreds of similar piles of potatoes. Those potatoes are gone. They're not feeding the hungry. They're not getting sneezed on by pimple-faced kids in paper hats. They're not sitting in a small pile along with a whole lot of air inside a chip bag. So let me ask you, do you feel the heat yet? Because here's the scary part, folks. The stove isn't turned to low. We're at medium and well on our way to high. Our country's industrial infrastructure, and indeed that of the world, is a complicated machine with an unfathomable number of moving parts. Throw a stick in the gears and the machinery begins to grind to a halt. The point I'm trying to make here isn't that a French fry shortage is going to kill us. If anything, it might make us ever so slightly healthier to not be able to get fries with our meal. My point is that this is a symptom of a much larger and scarier problem. You can imagine all sorts of doomsday scenarios where in the supply chain we all depend on could go down. Plenty of novelists and filmmakers have all been all over that like white on rice. We don't have a rice shortage just yet. But what happens when the apocalypse, what happens when it's of our own making? Now, here's a deep truth. Tyranny does not lead to the flourishing of mankind, ever. It may lead in the short term to the flourishing of a few privileged individuals, but even they usually end up getting their heads separated from their bodies when the revolution inevitably comes knocking on the door. What it does lead to is misery and death, usually on a broad scale. It leads to a lessening of the quality of life, something which only freedom can resolve. Right now, for so very many reasons, we are that proverbial frog in the pot of water. And listen, it's not good enough for us to just hop out of the water. That only solves the problem until the sick bastard who put you in there in the first place decides to grab you up and plop you back in. We have to change things both externally and in our own hearts and minds. This isn't just a call for you to vote for the right candidates. It's a call for you to think and act with your societal compass always pointed in the direction of freedom. It may be inconvenient, but anything less, folks, and we are toast, or burned French fries if you like that better.